This content is brought to you by OEH Inclusive Design, reaching every brain with UDL.
Welcome to another episode of the Instructional Design Insights Podcast. Today, we are diving into a framework that is absolutely essential for creating inclusive and effective learning environments: Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. If you have ever wondered how to design a course that truly reaches every student from the start, rather than just reacting to individual accommodation requests, this episode is for you.
Yeah, I am so excited we're finally doing a deep dive on this. It's such a game changer.
It really is. And, to kind of set the stage for you, the listener, I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are designing a building.
Okay, like a brand new building.
Right. A brand new state-of-the-art building. You could build a grand set of stairs right up to the front entrance. But then, opening day arrives and someone in a wheelchair shows up.
And suddenly it's a panic.
Exactly. You're scrambling. You have to call the contractors back and you bolt on this clunky metal ramp to the side of the building. And sure, it technically works, but it's an afterthought, right?
Oh, completely. And it feels like an afterthought to the person using it too.
Yes. But consider the alternative.
Yeah.
You could design a beautiful integrated ramp from the very beginning, a ramp that everyone can use, parents with heavy strollers, delivery workers with carts, people with mobility aids. Everyone uses it with ease.
That is honestly the perfect metaphor. Universal Design for Learning is that built-in ramp for the classroom.
Exactly. It's the built-in ramp. And our mission for today's deep dive is to really unpack this. We're going to go through the core principles of UDL from our sources, explore the actual brain science behind why this works, and extract 4 practical takeaways to help you build better learning experiences.
And I think to even start building that ramp, we have to talk about why the stairs are failing in the first place.
Right. Why is the old way broken?
Well, it comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of how the human brain actually works. We've basically been designing for a ghost.
A ghost. Okay, tell me more about that.
So our sources dive heavily into this concept popularized by Todd Rose. It's called the myth of the average learner. For decades, instructional designers just assumed there was this middle of the bell curve, mathematically average student.
And we build everything for that one hypothetical person.
Exactly. But the data shows that designing for an average student means you are literally designing for no one.
Okay, wait, I got to push back on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because surely there's a baseline average we can aim for, right? Not everyone is a wild outlier.
You'd think so, but nobody is average across every single metric. It goes back to this famous study from the 1950s with military fighter pilots.
Oh yeah, the cockpit study.
Right. The military designed these cockpits for the average pilot. They took thousands of measurements of guys' arms, legs, torsos, and created this average seat. But out of over 4,000 pilots, guess how many were average in all 10 dimensions?
I'm guessing not many.
0. Not a single one. If you build a seat for the average, it fits no one. And neuroscience shows us that the exact same thing is true for education.
Wow. 0 out of 4,000.
Yeah. And the research from CAST, the organization behind UDL, they show that every single human brain is made of billions of interconnected neurons. And those pathways are completely unique, just like fingerprints.
So no 2 brains are alike.
Exactly. Learner variability is the rule. It is not the exception.
I really love how the sources frame this variability. They use this concept of the invisible backpack. I want you to picture the learners logging into your course right now. Every single one of them is wearing an invisible backpack.
Oh, I love that analogy because it's full of so many dynamic variables.
Right. What's actually in there? It's not just like, oh, I'm a visual learner. It's so much deeper.
Way deeper. It's their prior knowledge. It's their cultural background. It's their current stress levels. Did they just have a fight with their spouse before opening your module?
Or did they just work a 12-hour shift?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also things like working memory capacity, reading proficiency, or neurodivergence like ADHD or dyslexia. Everyone carries a different mix.
And the really wild part is that those factors change day to day. A student might be totally focused on a Tuesday, but completely overwhelmed on a Thursday.
Which is why there's this really powerful quote in the sources that completely shifts the mindset here. It says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower.
Oh, wow. Fix the environment, not the flower. That is so profound.
Right. It takes the blame off the student.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. Because if there is no average learner, and everyone has this wildly different ever-changing backpack, isn't designing for everyone just going to create a mess?
How do you mean?
Well, isn't it like trying to make a one-size-fits-all t-shirt? You know,
Yeah.
the ones that claim to fit everyone, but they just end up looking terrible and baggy on everybody.
Yeah, I know exactly the shirts you mean. But no, that's the beauty of UDL. It is not about making one giant baggy shirt.
Okay, then what is it?
It's about providing a menu, a robust menu of adaptable options, so the learner can choose the size and fit that works for their brain on that specific day.
Ah, a menu. That makes much more sense. So how do we actually build this menu? Our sources break the UDL framework down into 3 core principles.
Right. And these aren't just arbitrary categories. They map directly to 3 distinct networks in the brain.
Okay, let's get into the first one. Multiple means of engagement. This targets the affective network of the brain. The sources call this the why of learning.
Yeah, and think of the affective network like an emotional bouncer at a nightclub. It's located deep in the center of the brain. Its whole job is to evaluate incoming info and decide, is this safe? Is this relevant?
So if a student is anxious or bored or feels threatened,
The bouncer locks the door. The information literally never makes it up to the prefrontal cortex where the actual learning and memory storage happens.
that is fascinating. So to get past the bouncer, we have to recruit their interest and sustain their motivation.
Exactly. By offering them real choice and autonomy, showing them why the task actually matters to their real life, and helping them with self-regulation so they don't panic when things get hard.
Okay, so that's the why. But once we're past the bouncer, we hit the second principle, multiple means of representation. This targets the recognition networks in the back of the brain, the what of learning.
Right, because this network gathers facts and categorizes them, and everybody perceives information differently. So if you just hand them a dense 50-page PDF,
You're putting up a massive roadblock.
a huge roadblock for a student with dyslexia or someone whose first language isn't English or someone who just has severe eye strain.
So we had to provide content in various formats. And the sources give really specific examples here. It's not just make a video, it's providing a video with accurate captions. It's giving them a downloadable audio transcript.
Yeah, and providing alt text for images so screen readers can describe the graphics to visually impaired students. You have to give the brain multiple ways to consume the what?
Which brings us to the output, the third principle. Multiple means of action and expression. Targeting the strategic networks in the front of the brain. This is the how of learning.
This is all about letting students demonstrate what they know in different ways.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And I know a lot of instructors push back on this.
Absolutely. This is the hot button issue.
Right, because let's say I'm an instructor and I tell my students, show me you understand this topic however you want. And one student hands in a traditional 10-page essay. Another records a really slick 5-minute video, and another creates a slide deck.
Yeah.
If students are turning in videos, essays, and slide decks, all for the exact same assignment, how on earth does an instructor grade that fairly without losing their mind?
It's the most common question I hear, and it makes total sense to worry about that. But UDL forces us to do something really important. You have to separate the actual learning goal from the medium.
Separate the goal from the medium. What does that look like in practice?
Okay, let's say your learning objective is demonstrate an understanding of the causes of the American Civil War. If that is the goal, then it literally doesn't matter if they write an essay or record a podcast.
Because you're only grading their understanding of the history.
Exactly. You use one rubric that measures historical accuracy, analysis, things like that. You are not grading their video editing skills, and you're not grading their APA formatting.
Ah, so fairness is about measuring everyone against the same cognitive standard, not forcing everyone to do the exact same physical task.
Right. Now, if your learning goal is literally write a persuasive essay, then the medium is the goal. But we usually attach these rigid formatting rules out of pure habit, not because they serve the learning objective.
That is such a crucial distinction. Okay, so understanding these 3 principles, engagement, representation, action, and expression, is great theory. But the real magic of UDL is when you apply them.
Yes, and as an instructional designer, you are the bridge between this brain science and the real world.
Which leads us to our first major takeaway: proactive design over reactive accommodation. We have to break down the difference between UDL and differentiated instruction, or DI.
This is huge because people use those terms interchangeably all the time, but they are very different.
So how would you define differentiated instruction then?
DI happens during the delivery phase. You're teaching, You notice a few students are struggling, and you reactively modify the lesson on the fly to help them. It's responsive.
But UDL happens way before anyone even logs into the course. It's baked into the materials during the design phase to remove the barriers up front.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? If differentiated instruction is like a chef modifying a dish because a customer just announced a peanut allergy.
Which causes total chaos in the kitchen.
Right. Chaos. Then UDL is the chef designing a spectacular, completely peanut-free menu from the start so anyone can walk in and safely eat.
That is brilliant. Yes, and think about the burden that takes off the student. With UDL, you minimize the need for those ad hoc reactive accommodations.
Which means a student doesn't have to go through the stressful, stigmatizing process of proving they have a disability just to get a transcript of a video.
Exactly. You remove the friction. The sources actually shared a great real-world example of this. It was a university admissions onboarding module.
Oh, I remember this. Historically, it was just a grueling, text-heavy, click-and-read presentation.
A total nightmare for cognitive load. But they ran it through the UDL lens.
And what did they change? They added audio narration, right?
Yep, audio narration. They swapped out generic stock photos for really inclusive visuals to hit that effective network. And for the final assignment, they gave learners a choice. Write a short reflection or record a video.
And the feedback was amazing. Learners felt seen, heard, and empowered. They weren't fighting the format, they were actually learning the content.
It perfectly captures a quote from Dr. Shelley Moore that was in our sources. She says, "If we design for the margins, we actually make things better for everyone."
Because the closed captions you put in for a deaf student are also being used by the student studying in a noisy coffee shop. Or the non-native English speaker.
Exactly. It benefits everyone.
Okay, I am totally sold on the philosophy. But I know what you're thinking as you listen to this. I hear you saying, I barely have time to build the course once, let alone build it 3 different ways.
Yeah, the time constraint is very real. Designers are overwhelmed.
How do we do this without just suffering from severe workload burnout?
Well, that brings us to takeaway number 2, the +1 approach. You do not have to redesign an entire curriculum overnight.
Please tell me more, because trying to do it all at once sounds like a disaster.
It is a disaster. The +1 approach is a strategy where you just identify one single barrier in a lesson. Where are students always getting stuck? Where do you get the most confused emails?
Okay, so you find that one bottleneck.
Right. And you add just one more way for students to engage, represent, or express their learning for that specific bottleneck. That's it.
So if everyone fails week 3, because the reading is a super dense academic journal,
Your +1 could just be linking a reliable 5-minute YouTube video that explains the same concept. You don't overhaul the whole week, you just add one alternative pathway.
it's like building a muscle over time.
Right.
Rather than trying to run a marathon on day 1, you just layer it in semester by semester.
Exactly. And over time, those small shifts build an incredibly robust, universally designed course.
And if you don't know where to start, our sources recommend using the CKST guidelines and checklists. They literally give you a blueprint for where to look for barriers.
Which naturally leads into our 4th and final takeaway. UDL is a journey of professional internalization.
Internalization. What does that mean in this context?
It means UDL isn't just a compliance checklist you fill out once. Implementing it is an iterative process. As you practice it, these techniques like writing alt text or checking color contrast, they just become automatic.
Right. Our sources looked at a study from Old Dominion University about this. Faculty reported that over time, thinking about multiple pathways just became a reflex.
Yeah, it becomes professionally internalized. It fundamentally shifts your mindset. You stop viewing the student-teacher relationship as a battle of, how do I force them to learn this?
And you start asking, how can I remove the barriers so they can show me what they know?
Exactly. It's moving from frustration to curiosity.
It is such a profound shift. And by applying these principles, you aren't just meeting an accessibility requirement. You are creating an equitable learning landscape where every student has a fair shot at success. My challenge for you this week is to pick one learning experience you are working on and run it through the UDL lens. Ask yourself, can learners access this regardless of their background or ability?
Before we go, think about this. If UDL is fundamentally about providing multiple, flexible pathways for learning, how might the rapid rise of artificial intelligence change this landscape? Could AI eventually become the ultimate real-time UDL co-designer, instantly adapting text to audio, simplifying vocabulary, and generating tailored examples for every single student's unique brain?
Thank you for listening to the Instructional Design Insights Podcast with Michael and Libby. If you enjoyed this episode, contact the creator, Oceana Elia-Hintsa, at oeinclusivedesign.com to request more content.